When you welcome your lovely inner child home, that is where we can share. Thank you for being fearless and bold. The secure attachment 1 year old thanks all of those who are on their journey to come over here with or without earned secure attachment. There's plenty of us out in IHP land on YouTube and just everywhere. So when you're secure attached 1 year old, you unconsciously love all people, like I learned from Jesus. Thank you. And that's because we don't forget where we come from. So when you have a 1 year old, you remember that you're a 1 year old, I'm a 1 year old, and I'm attachment trauma informed. That's why I have words now to say what I knew as a kid, which is, can we hug it out? Because I really want to hug, and I really want us to be good, but not in a way of us doing the childhood trauma persona of, are we good? No. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that we can be different and still want to hang out. Okay, healthy self-worth people is what I'm going to continue conversing about, but I want to honor all of those who take the time to begin therapy, to get a handle on their self. Once they know who they are, they know that they don't need to be ashamed, and they know that they want to get their inner child as an adult with the prefrontal cortex and with healthy self-worth. Women, men, and theys, come on over. We don't live the adolescent movies, okay? So we're not 12 to 24 quote-unquote assholes who are like Cusco's on wheels, and between Cusco, Pinocchio, who follows the wolf and whatever in wooden body with the ears, okay? I'm just going to use those stories. We had them today. So again, I feel a lot for people who don't get out of their maladaptive child behavior or adaptive child behavior, because I know that dysregulated and modulated embodied selves is very painful. So that's where, let's leave it to, it's not lack of imagination for evil, is that evil has won a Michael Stone forensic criminologist scale, and they are all the ones who end up in prison because of silly mistakes, because of a lot of things that didn't go well for them when they started life, to our 7 to 14 charming. They're Peter Pans with lost boys, lost girls, lost days, and they have Wendy's and whatnot. And then we got 14 to 22 or 24. They have it even more worse inside of whatever, who knows, and they end up all in prison. Forensic criminologists, they all end up caught. They all end up somewhere, and it isn't somewhere fancy. And the 7 to 14, if there's anything that we know, the only reason they continue to roam around free is because of their charm that pulls the wool over the eyes of, not the lack of imagination for evil. No, it's that ears want to hear words from people who segregate and compartmentalize and organize human beings in this good and evil category versus getting educated and knowing that there's not inherently good or evil. You have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old. You have a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old lives in you. Attachment researchers, neuroscientists, there's plenty of proof. There's no demon that possesses you. Neuroscientist Patrick McNamara, he's writing about it, studying about it. Determined, Robert Sapolsky. We have qualitative data. That's how I'm defining it, but I'm sure that he might have presented some quantitative. I'm not sure about it, though, 100%, so don't quote me on any of it. Oh, and I forget data points, FYI. I'm a pseudoscience lady, okay? And I'm woo-woo because I'm a 5D mystic. And I'm in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. There's no laundry here. It's called I Have Emotions. I'm a 1-year-old that didn't lose myself, or a 3-year-old that didn't feel shame, because I have a mom who allowed me to be all of a child. And that's why when I see children, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're not being. And then again, I do know it's a third attunement and then repairing ruptures. So the ideal parenting style, I have learned about it. And so it's not that you don't have a little spanking or that you don't get yelled at. It's a third attunement of your physical, emotional needs from that first year of life. And then the repairing ruptures is, once I've yelled at you, I repair so that I don't have you walking around with shame and then feeling defective and seeing what we see out there with Pinocchios with ears and tails, the drinking, fucking, drugging, and people with inner critic and outer critic who are basically, not really where they could be, but they can do personal development, self-help. Some are actually very straightforwardly, their capacity to be fearless and bold is where they can move into, oh, look, I have emotions, I have thoughts. They're not irrefutable facts. They're actually part of who I am as a core self, with a relational self, with a narrative self, with a solo self, but I am a spirituality self and sciences. So I live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. Okay, so solo poly, it's not because we're alone, it's because we have the capacity to be our own 1 year old safe haven and secure base. Okay, so reassure ourselves. And so when we have someone who's being insensitive or projecting, we don't lecture them. That's for those who don't move into the being fearless and bold. Mantles of mental health, mantles of yoga, mantles of spirituality, spiritual bypassers, people who overflow with humanity. They have divinity descend because they have integration in the brain. It's called consciousness. Now, Daniel Siegel calls it consciousness and change in the course that I just finished taking. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, so I've always been presence and consciousness. That's why it's easy for me to be a flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable brain when emotions come up and thoughts. And to be a person who stands my ground when somebody's presenting me something and not feeling in any way, shape, or form ashamed, because I'm a differentiated self. My name's Maria. I have a subjective experience, which has a subjective perspective, which also has a subjective agency. And my authentic self will trigger any person who doesn't want to welcome their whole 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old home yet, because that's the very part that's going to say, I want that. I want to be home, back to myself too. So you get a teenager in the room. Now, if it's a teenager who's an adaptive child with a maladaptive child who knows their selves, okay, they started good therapy and they do good therapy. They're like, okay, I just got, oh yeah, this is that hypervigilance stuff. Oh wait, this is that emotional black and white thinking stuff. Oh wait, okay, you know what? This is called a trigger. I'm going to handle this. So they're going to not project it. That's what a person who is being fearless and bold, okay? So people who get home to their self and are wanting, they're going to continue engaging with an authentic self, because they're going to say, my emotions and thoughts are not irrefutable facts. If I have envy, jealousy, spite, if I have competitiveness, if I have any of, I would want to, whatever it is, if I have inner critic going on or outer critic, I have the, again, first hero, then demon, then this is all family in the head, is what Dr. Daniel Fox calls it. I'm going to call it another thing. I actually used some words the other day. Let me find for a second. My phone acts funny sometimes, but where are you? Well, this is different, but I'll still read it to you since we're on topic of what I've shared on our community platforms. When your breath is taken away every step of the way in life, it is because you embrace you, the essence of love and life you're made of, from your human body, with all those amazing human emotions and thoughts that you get to share with self-awareness, with safe haven, secure base, healthy self-worth, and empowered people, including yourself. So your mental activity, your beliefs, your thoughts, the emotions, you are the owner of it. Okay. Now, some people, they don't have that. They have what are nightmare thoughts and negative thoughts, and that's why they are going to enjoy people like us, because we're going to say you're not a piece of shit. And they have healthy self-worth partners, and partners involves partners in life, relationships, friendships, all of it. But obviously romantic partners are very important for people who are claiming their whole self, and to know of what we're dealing with is something very straightforward when you're healing with a good therapist, and or you're on a good journey to understand there's no evil. It's not lack of imagination for evil. There's no evil from the philosophical religious textbooks. There's neuroscientists that share, neurobiologists, attachment researchers, mental health community that share how to get home to your 1 year old and 3 year old and out of childhood trauma. And that is where we do not demonize, romanticize, justify. We understand there are those who are doing the human love narrative. They want to move on into an earned, secure attachment 1 year old body with a 3 year old that can go to sleep at night at some point or another with no more flashbacks and no more of that stuff that comes up. And it's a very, very, very important journey. And they are to be fearless, bold, commended is the word. Okay, so when you are a person who becomes aware that dysregulation, hypervigilant, push and pull, unhealthy, codependent type relationships are not what you're meant to do, you're going to come on over here to healthy self-worth people. And that's because the ones who don't actually move out of the love dependent, love avoidant, they stay martyr superiors, blamers. You can tell they have passive aggressive mannerisms when you're handling anything with them. So I found my lovely little quote. It is in the stillness of the mind that we find the dance of fate with our group thinking as it balances the thoughts and emotions with the comfort of those secure attachment figures and relationships in our life. So healthy self-worth women, men, and theys are important for people who want to get out of that family in the head, that Dr. Daniel Fox calls it that. You can call it inner critic, outer critic. It's basically nightmare stories, okay? And we don't need to call anything truths. I'm a 5D mystic. I know all about astral travel and all about waking up from dreams in a number of ways. We won't get into that one right now. But I have consistently shared what is meant to be taking place when you get up. Okay, so the people who get to have secure attachment figures come up, it helps them to get rid of the non-securely attached, dysregulated, traumatized figures who have talks of shame, blame, fault, revenge that are the indication of the childhood trauma that the parents, people, the household, all in turn lived themselves, and then they pass it on to their offspring. It's called transgenerational trauma. Okay, so we don't need a devil demon story, and we don't need to lack imagination. There's education. So be fearless and bold. Let's reclaim those inner child parts. Every person can get there, and with secure attachment people, we are all open-hearted, Pachas. We know you have a heart. Nobody's heartless. So when we meet someone and or people that don't have this capacity to hold space for our emotions, it's okay. That's why we know how to be our own. It's okay, Maria. It's okay, use your name. And it's not personal because you can only hold space for another person's emotions if you can hold space for your 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 3-year-old who was scared. And that means that you don't feel shame for being afraid. You don't feel shame for feeling helpless. You don't feel shame for being all alone. I don't feel shame for having human emotions, which is our secondary consciousness of uncertainty. It's okay to be afraid, which is something I got to address when I had that experience of pure fear, and then I did the demo. And lovely Dr. Albert Wong was walking me through this demo, and sentence was, it's okay to be afraid. And I remember I got teary-eyed. I'm like, I don't want to cry on screen right now. I'm being recorded. And some people are like, oh, that's good. No, I don't want to, it's going to be used for people. I want to help people to know it's okay to, you can do this. And so being able to do it in my personal book is showing how it is something you can capacitate. Plus, when you want to cry, FYI, the reality is, and I've shared this one before, you're wanting a hug. You don't want to do it on the screen is more of, why would I'm not going to have a mammalian body next to me it's okay. It's going to be okay. Now, some people, they only have the capacity to share on screen, and that's a whole different story. So when I see authentic, I'm sharing. I have no other place. I have a group of people, and you'll know who those people are, by the way, and it's not categories. It's just you notice authenticity, the tone, versus a group of people who have mantles. Okay, and so they're doing something too, because mantles, Peter Pan's got lost boys, lost girls who want to follow the leader. We're following the lead. They want that. So some people are empowered by being copycats of each other, and that's what I'm going to call them, because teenagers, basically, that's what I saw. Like, okay, I thought you all wanted to be different. Now you all look the same. You're all talking the same. There's your stereotypes, gender, all of it. Just put all the generalizations in there. I call them teenagers because they don't get creative on the way to use their, no, I'm not going to joke there. But what I'm trying to get to is that fear of inadequacy is from your societal, social system, which comes online as an adolescent. If you don't move out of your 12 to 24 adolescent, when are you going to claim to be your own human name, emotionally and mentally? Okay, so the energy of consciousness is you. I'm presence. I'm here as pure love. I have no shame, no blame. I can stand as a member of my herd in my prefrontal cortex. It's a feeling that arises, which once you understand, there's no fear of inadequacy for being afraid, because being weak doesn't mean our herd's going to kick us to the curb. And that's where that memory is coming from, What year is it? I remind you, 2024. Okay, so we don't do herd stuff in a way. Oh, and by the way, when you learn from what real herds do, yeah, they don't do what the people who made up bullshit stories do. Our ancestors, there's a great anthropologist I learned this from. Yes, you know what they do? The anthropologist went to one of these. I forget what his name is, but if you're curious, let me know. I'll share with you the video. And he shows that this tribe, they hunt and then they enjoy time together. And when boys get cocky, they make sure that the boys don't get cocky because they need to have a soft heart. So they teach them how to be humble. And yeah, you see the face because there's a lot of boys that I meet. They think that they are humble. They're not. They're completely oblivious to their Cusco attitude, and then they think they're hot stuff. And I'm thinking, you're ignoring your 3-year-old and 1-year-old, and your 16-year-old is acting like the very 16-year-olds I noticed. And nowhere have you noticed that you're not living in a movie, and that this hypervigilant attitude is actually something that can be addressed because there's enough attachment and trauma for free information online that any intellectually savvy human being, hot stuff, will have known at this point in 2024. So when I see any of piece of information, I love to share with you, as I just did. When you meet anyone who's in this cocky kind of attitude, it's not your business because they are either an adaptive child or maladaptive child, of course, meaning their state of consciousness. Your opportunity is to be fearless and bold with your acceptance of who you are, recalibration, because it's called I differentiate. I'm a person who feels and thinks life in one way, another nervous system. So I don't need to address a grandiose, because a grandiose or a shame is still low self-esteem, indirect communicators, passive aggressive. They're not going to know boundaries. They're not even online. They're already in their safety behavior of their adolescent 16-year-old, which is why they think they're hot stuff. They're not. It's a small energy, and it's in fact an energy that is on a pattern of a wheel. The minute that you engage with them, they will be that pattern. It's a broken record. So it's something, we'll talk more about that one because I've spotted it a number of times. And at the beginning, I was like, what? Now I'm like, okay. So again, let's thank every person who gets their 1-year-old, 3-year-old back home, online, secure attachment, functional adults, unconditional love. Let's be here for each other. Have a great one.